We are recording.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for attending tonight's planning meeting of the East Grinstead Town Council. As you're aware, this is a slightly different meeting to normal because of the change in the government guidelines. I'm going to read out to explain a bit more of that for the record. I'd like to explain that this is not a meeting of the committee, as virtual meetings may not take place until after the 7th of May. However, face-to-face meetings have been suspended until government lifts the restrictions on social distancing, which will allow us to return to the council chamber. The council have agreed not to hold any meetings before the 21st of June. Therefore, these meetings are to allow the council to have discussions on decisions that are needed to be made by a delegated authority. The delegation is to the clerk in consultation with the chair and vice chair, as the council can delegate authority to an officer but not an elected member. Our discussions today will therefore assist the clerk in her deliberation. There'll be no voting and no decisions made by this committee. So I hope that makes sense, everyone. I will conduct the meeting as normal. We will still take a vote, but it will not be a legally binding vote, but it will be a vote to just agree our position that we'll put to the clerk that will formulate our delegated response. So I will play the meeting out exactly as normal so that it's all transparent, nothing changes at all moving forward. So hopefully you're all okay with that, and that makes sense. So item number 1 on the agenda tonight is public participation. I understand we have one member of the public who wishes to speak tonight. Mr. Wade, I'm going to give you 2 minutes to talk on your subject. When we get to 10 seconds left, I'll just raise my hand, just if you could just wind it up for the last 10 seconds there. But Mr. Wade, if you'd like to start us off, please.
Yes, good evening, everybody. I'd like to talk to you about the planned capping application that's gone in for Evergreen Farm. Now, I actually live on Imberhorn Lane, and the current application, as it's constructed, has a traffic plan that allows all 62 lorries a day to go up and down Imberhorn Lane past my house. Now, obviously, that is, I think, massively far too many lorries. The typical amount going up and down our lane at the moment is about 20 lorries a day. So you're going to push it from 20 to about 80 lorries a day, which is a massive increase by anybody's plans. And I would like to suggest perhaps the committee could consider suggesting to West Sussex County Council or the applicant, I'm not quite sure how you would go about doing this, that they could consider bringing the incoming lorries via Brooklands Way, coming up the A22, down Brooklands Way, to the bottom of there, up Turners Hill Road, left at the crossroads, then down to St Hill Green. And then the returning empty lorries could come back out via Imberhorn Lane to the A22. That one move would reduce the traffic on Imberhorn Lane by 50%, which would be a massive amount. So that is really what I would like to put forward and ask the committee to consider as an alternative to the current traffic plan. And I would ask that they would not support the application as it stands with the traffic plan at this point in time. That's what I've got to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I don't think any other members of the public wanted to speak tonight, did they, 10 o'clock?
No, not they registered, no.
Thank you. Item number 2, it would normally be declarations of interest. Now, technically, you don't have to make a declaration tonight, but it is advised not to comment on any matters where you may have an external influence. I think, for the record, it might be good that any normal declarations are made. So, Councillor de Bell, please.
Thank you very much, Chairman. As you know, I'm a member of the Mid Sussex District Council Planning Committees, and I reserve the right, with further information presented to me there, to change my opinion as opposed to what it might be tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Peacock.
Thank you, Chairman. Exactly the same as Councillor de Bell.
Thank you. Any others tonight to talk committee? Fantastic. Item number 3 is Chairman's announcements. I've got a few for you tonight. All come from Councillor Whitaker, actually, who was going to try and be here tonight, but he's not. The first one is the S278 works on Hill Place Farm development by Linden Homes have commenced. It's just an access bell mouth to a sewer connection at the moment. Full groundworks will commence in June. Councillor Whitaker is continuing to liaise with Linden and have arranged an on-site meeting with their project manager for early June to get a programme of construction management plan and other planning consideration clearance information. Councillor Whitaker sits on the district planning committee and was involved heavily in this site when he was chair of this committee in the past. So with my blessing, he's formed some good relationships with them over the past with Linden Homes, and I've sort of delegated to him to go and sort of be our eyes and ears on the ground there if anyone's questioning why he is involved still. Secondly, the SA DPD examination programme has been published by the inspector on the Mid-Sussex District Council website. Starts on Thursday the 1st of June, closing statements Wednesday the 16th of June. The crucial day for East Grinstead is Friday the 11th of June, when these 3 sites allocated to East Grinstead will be reviewed. So as that continues through, I will continue to hopefully update you. And thirdly, Councillor Whitaker has been a busy boy. He did on to Western Homes to chase them up about the Queen's Walk public toilets. So he will report back on that as well, because again, he was heavily involved in that development when he was chairman. So he's just continuing his connections there. I've moved things around a little bit just to advise you as well that on item 6 on the agenda, I've moved the West Sussex application for Evergreen Farm to the top of the agenda there, so that those members of the public that have come to listen to that discussion don't have to sit for the whole evening and listen to us talk about every conservatory and fence or whatever else we've got on the agenda tonight. So you after that you can leave if you wish to. So I've moved that forward. So we'll start. I'm going to share my screen and we can get to the main bits for you. Okay. I'm just going to make it so I can see you all. Okay. Actually going to start with the licensing applications. So we're going to start with LI 210321. This is a premises license for restaurant 29 London Road. This is to include the sale and consumption of alcohol and remove a condition. This is town wall this would fall under. So Councillor Scott, have you got any comments on this application at all?
I've actually visited this premises at least half a dozen times in its construction, and I only saw this last week, and it is looking a lovely little place to eat. It's different to anyone else in the town has got. Their type of food is going to be totally different, and it looks a really, really nice acquisition to our high street, and I would support this.
Okay. So we quite often will refer this to the licensing officer, so we haven't got any other comments. I did try at length to look at what the removal of a condition was. I don't know if the town clerk found anything or anybody else dug anything up on that, but there was nothing on the application. That is a list of conditions, but it doesn't say what condition is to be removed. So I think the timings on that application look perfectly in keeping with the other restaurants in town. So I think we should refer that to the licensing officer without any further comment. Are we happy for that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Next item 5 is protected tree applications. Again, we normally take these on block to refer to the tree officer, but if committee want to make any observations that they consider necessary in respect of them, then they can. So, Councillor Scott, your hand is up first. If you'd like to.
There's one there, yeah, there's one on there that's on twice, and it differs with both responses. One says take back as much as possible, and the other one says overall reduction to 5 meters. Which one is the true and accurate one, if you don't mind me asking?
It is a very good observation, and I'm not sure if they're different trees, being completely honest with you. I didn't notice that they were both there, but Councillor Dooley, do you know more on that one from its location?
Hi, sorry, I was trying to unmute there. Yes, so I've driven past the site, and from what I can see, it's in their back garden. I can only see one oak tree in the back garden. I guess I'd like to understand why they want to trim it back so hard, because it doesn't look a huge oak tree. I mean, it is big, granted it's big in the location, but it's not big in context to a number of other oak trees within the town. So I'd like to understand if it's if it's dangerous, what the reasons are that they want to have it quite, because 5 meters off of it would be fairly significant. Looking at the size of it, it would be, quite a significant trim down, let's say. So I think obviously we'd refer this to the tree officers, but it'd be interesting to understand what they're trying to benefit out of this, and why it's been so heavily pruned, let's say. But it is one, I think, from what I can see, Chairman.
So I think we would like maybe go back to Ms Sussex to clarify the listing of that, being that they are under the same number as well, but with 2 descriptions. There are 2 neighbours in support of managing the size of the tree, which says to me that there may well be some concerns about the stability of the tree or impact to neighbouring properties. So I think we should go back and ask why it's coming down, and is it unsafe? But Councillor Scott.
I was just going to say one last thing, that the oak tree is something that I absolutely love, and to reduce something by 5 meters, the greatest thing about the oak is its shape. And if you're going to reduce a tree by 5 meters, I dread to think what it would actually look like in appearance. That's my only problem.
I agree. I think any reduction should only be any reduction of an oak tree, same as we've taken the view in the past, or felling of an oak tree should only be for safety reasons.
Right.
I think it's good practice to have sort of good husbandry on the trees, definitely for safety, 100%. But it's just got to be done within reason.
Okay. Town Clerk, are you happy with those before I move on?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you. So just to jump it up, we are going to actually start tonight with West Sussex County Council 00420. We're all very aware of this particular application, and it is a very complex application that has come before us before in various different stages. I'm going to pass over to my vice chair shortly, to Councillor Odie, because he has done an enormous amount of work on this and has worked with the residents as well. So, and just to make committee kind of clear, this is another one that's even more complicated than normal with this meeting, but we do not have to make a decision like normal whether we would support approval or recommend refusal. We can put our statement in of our comments, which I believe Councillor Odie has gone to great effort to prepare. So I'm going to ask Councillor Odie to read that out, and then if we have any additional comments, we can add those to it to put forward. Okay. So Councillor Odie, the floor is yours, sir. Thank
you, Chair. Okay, so I'm just going to read it because it's much easier, and I'm no good with my memory. So. It's a highly sensitive and specialised application with implications for the town and surrounding area, while the work is being carried out on highways and infrastructure, as well as the quality of living due to the significant timescale that's outlined in the plan. The committee understand the case for why this work needs to be carried out, and I'm not making a recommendation for us to make, as the chair has already said, but rather make as strong an argument as possible to keep the effect to the town to a minimum. And I've summarised the key points and some possible solutions as well. The committee are also concerned with the cumulative negative impact of these works with other developments in the town as well, and the overall position as to affect the roads and the quality of life must be factored into these works. The information available does suggest there's some contamination leaching into the field. I must stress to the committee that the environmental study was a desktop study as well. The developer has looked at different options for routing vehicles so they don't go through the town and down Dunning's Road that was first suggested. The current suggestion is to route the vehicles off the A22 and up Imberhorn Lane, as Mr. Waite already commented on earlier, returning back down the same way. When the original site was used for landfill 40 years ago, obviously there was a lot less vehicles and the town was not the same size. So the development will cause major disruption to the town, but it is work that also does need to be done. So in summary, there were over 240 objections on the West Sussex portal. The work is scheduled to take 80 weeks, and there are anything between 3 and 10 deliveries per hour, or journeys per hour. There's estimated between 120,000 and 150,000 cubic meters of soil required to fill the site, which is 24 to 30,000 trips annually. They're operational 279 days of the year, and over an 80-week period, it's an average of 31 deliveries per day, or 62 journeys. This will be more on weekdays, as many as 53 potentially each way. The main issue for the committee to consider and make comment on is the transport plan, and this is where the major objections came from our residents. The main concerns for comments: 32 London lorries making 62 journeys a day, including potentially 40 journeys on Saturdays, will have a significant effect on the road system the vehicles use. The impact on the roads used and the route and the community on the route will be severe. There are already a significant number of lorry journeys made using Imberhorn Lane and using the junction at Imberhorn Lane and St Hill Road. A conservative estimate, and this isn't scientifically proven, but I would say a conservative estimate is that there'll be a 100% increase in heavy vehicle movements. This is without the increase in heavy vehicle journeys due to start on the Hill Place Farm Place development. Imberhorn Lane is already busy, as it's used as a cut through for drivers avoiding the A22 through town, and the roads are narrow from the bridge over Worth Way right through to the site entrance. There's very little room for one lorry in some parts of the route. The two bridges on the route, one goes over Worth Way past Dulwich Farm, and the second, which is also very narrow and already has had bad road erosion, is just past the amenity tip, but will be subject to a large increase in weight load for 80 weeks. It's also a pinch point in traffic flow. The route takes the lorries past Imberhorn School. There's no provision or mention of the vehicles going past the school, particularly when the school population are arriving and leaving. There are always cars parked on the road by the Imberhorn recreation area, and this will cause a further pinch point until at least 3:30 when those cars have gone. On Saturdays, the Imberhorn Recreation Green is used by children's football clubs and is very busy from 8 o'clock until 12 every weekend, pretty much. Other pinch points are St Hill Road, just before the cricket club, and also the triangle turning point at the junction of West Hoathly Road. The narrowing of this road by the stone at the entrance of Standon as well, and there's also a crossing point for walkers using the bridle path from the rugby club and into Standon. That whole area around Standon, St Hill Road and West Hoathly are all used by walkers and cyclists with no footpaths for walkers. I can only see problems without correct supervision. And the route up Dunnings Road to West Hoathly is also a bus route. So this will need to be considered with two-way routes for the lorries. On the inbound journey, vision for the oncoming vehicles coming down St Hill is extremely restricted, and it will be difficult for lorry drivers to truly see any vehicles actually. And that's inbound and outbound journeys on that triangle area. Potential solutions, and what I'm commenting on really for West Sussex to consider for the application would be for the committee to seek assurances from Highways that the alternative routes have been considered with a view to avoid East Grinstead, and if none can be activated, that consideration as to the work being carried out in phases, such as 6 months and then a break of 3, which I know will elongate the project, but at least not subject to the town to 18 plus months of traffic gridlock potentially. And the town council would welcome also a seat on the discussions with the county council to ensure that all alternatives to achieve the outcome have been explored. We'd also look to have permanent members of staff at junctions to guide inbound and outbound vehicles. This will need to be put in writing and checked regularly. Signage on the road in the main areas to warn oncoming vehicles, walkers and cyclists, and changing of the route occasionally to offer some respite to affected residents along Imberhorn Lane. Visibility solutions at all the major pinch and turning points, traffic calming potentially on Turners Hill Road leading up to the Imberhorn Lane junction both ways. I'd like to see West Sussex, I'd like us to really try and ascertain from West Sussex the amount of money that's going to come back into town in terms of reparations for the road infrastructure damage that will happen. And I'd like this committee to receive a full breakdown of compensation prior to the start. proper communication with an emphasis on safety for all users of the route that should be considered. And also, I'd like the committee to seek assurances from Highways that all alternative routes have been considered. The committee, we're concerned of the cumulative impact of these works in the town, and that's really everything. Thank you. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much, Councillor Odey, for a very comprehensive report on that for us, and detailed recommendations there. Does anybody have any different recommendations or additional recommendations? Let's not go back over the same thing that Councillor Odey has said, but anything additional that we want to add? Councillor Scott.
Yeah, one thing that I did think of when Councillor Odey was making that a very, very comprehensive report was, do we know, i.e. the timing of the deliveries, will this have an effect on anything that's happening up at St Hill? Because you know and I know that when they have events, they're gigantic. And they have so many cars coming up there. They have hundreds and hundreds, well, thousands sometimes, people in there. Will this coincide with one of their huge events they have in the summer periods? Because that would be unbelievable if that happened. The lorries would have a big impact on. I'm not supporting what they're doing. It would be catastrophic for traffic.
I'll just answer, Chair, if that's okay. The timings are, the lorries are timed from 8 o'clock until 5:30, Monday to Friday, and 9 o'clock until 1 o'clock on Saturdays.
Okay.
There's no suggestion at all of any break in timings during school hours, school arrival and departures for Imberhorn Upper School either.
Thank you. Councillor Peacock, please.
Thanks, Chairman. Fully agree with what Councillor Odey said. The only thing in addition I would suggest we put in is that in February 2020, the Mid Sussex Council Environmental Officer said the applicant must demonstrate they are doing all they can to mitigate the adverse impact from noise, dust and light. And he did focus, or she did focus on dust. So all I'd say is, could we put in our response that urge West Sussex to really place a focus on mitigating any adverse impacts, because not only it's just the residents, we've got to stand there next door with tourism to the town as well. I think it shouldn't be overlooked. So fully agree with everything else Councillor Odey said. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor de Bell.
Thank you, Chair. It seems an age since we were discussing this before, but at that time, I remember that we specifically made recommendations that the lorries were not coming through during school opening times, you know, the crucial times when children were going to school. And we made all sorts of recommendations about breaks in the deliveries. But I think that the most important thing that I could remember was the need for this cap was to correct something that had been made a mess of in the first place many years ago, and to actually prevent adverse gases and things like that. I think that probably Councillor Belsey could come up with something a little bit more interesting to say, but that's the sort of thing that we were looking at the time. And in fact, the diversion away from the town centre would put it through Imberhorn Lane. That's my sort of considerations on it. Councillor Belsey.
Yes, Councillor Belsey, please.
Well, thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Town Mayor. And thank you, Councillor Odey, for for that very valuable contributions. I mean, as the Town Mayor said, looking at that report, obviously, I think a lot of the waste went to landfill in the 1960s and 70s, and it would be subject to much higher regulations now if it was sort of put to landfill. And I think there was, I think it does say there's high risk to animal and human life as a result of the potential for landfill gases and things. So I basically agree with the comments so far that there is a risk. So it's just how to mitigate it. So I think Councillor Odie has set out the types, the solutions that we would like to see from a town council, and I'm very supportive of us trying to push for as many of those as possible. I do have a residual concern, especially as someone who lives on the A264 myself, with you've got lorries going both ways. Just what does happen at the pinch point? Are there any pinch points? That will be my concern, where a particular concern where you can't realistically cross, and with all the traffic that we're backing up in each way, that is a significant concern for myself. So I'm sympathetic to trying to have one route in and one route out, but then of course you're spreading the pain amongst a greater number of residents, so it's a really difficult one to do. Do you want to have more people affected but potentially less, or less people affected but potentially more? However, we're very sympathetic to the concerns raised by residents on social media, and also particularly those that have taken the time to reply on the West Sussex website and to make their objections. I'm as I said, interested to know the pinch points, but feel that as a town council, all we can do really is just to push for as many of those safety and preventative measures as previously outlined by Councillor Odie, and I'm very supportive of those. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Before we come back to Councillor Odie, just to finish on that, I'd just like to add that I think the exploring the other options is crucial. Whether we have, as we've said, one route in, one route out, which would halve the amount of lorries affecting certain residents but could affect others, or whether we look at reducing the time from 10 till 2 in the day only, which would lengthen the project, but it would cut down the number of the amount of day that would be ruined, and it would also mitigate some of the safety concerns with the schools. I think it needs to be explored thoroughly, and my gut feeling at the moment is that it's been explored lazily, and could potentially, there should be a lot more thought gone into something that has such a vast impact. Councillor Odie, would you like to just come in with your closing comments just to wrap this up?
Yes, thanks, Chair. Sorry, just for the record, the timings, Councillor Scott, are 7 o'clock in the morning until 5, Monday to Friday, and 9 until 1 on Saturdays. I know that the meeting is being recorded, and I wanted that to be corrected. Sorry. I take on board all of those comments, actually, and of course it is an application that actually has implications for pretty much every town ward, every councillor. So and I do actually agree with you, Chair, in terms of the report. That desktop studies are great, but I would like to see more boots on the ground, really, just to make sure that this is going to work, and it's got to work for everybody. If you, in comment, just in passing, if you just do 10 until 2, that you're realistically looking at more than probably trebling the duration of time that it takes, which ultimately that's something that West Sussex County Council are going to have to make a decision on, but I'm not entirely sure whether that's going to be a good thing or a bad thing, really. But hopefully they'll take on board some the comments that we've made and use some of the solutions.
No, I agree. I think this is far more complex than any of us, the traffic management surveys, that any of us are qualified to make those recommendations. But I think we have put across very strongly our concerns and the concerns of our residents going forward, which is what we're here to do. So hopefully, and I think you're completely right in what you said about us having a seat at the table and us being involved in the discussion going forward to make sure that we are constantly keeping this in check. Councillor Dooley, very quickly, the last 1 minute.
Yeah, I think the extension thing could be, if as Councillor Odie commented, that it could extend it so dramatically. There's a lot of planned development potentially up Imberhorn Lane. And if those developments were then clashing, having construction vehicles going from those potential developments at the same time as this going on could be absolutely catastrophic. And I think, as was mentioned, the splitting of the route two different ways would be a good mitigation, because if someone who lives and travels down Imberhorn Lane frequently, not so much since the pandemic, but I'd commute through the area daily. It's going to make traffic down there. It already queues back sometimes nearly as far as the refuse tip on a busy day. So I just my concerns are if you've got that much additional traffic going down there, what that road would be as the world comes back to normal, which it will be gradually over the next so many years.
Okay. Right, guys, I think this is obviously, we can talk on this probably all night, and unless there's something really drastically new or different to add to this, I think okay, Councillor Scott, go on.
It's a simple thing. Is there absolutely no way possible that this could happen through the period of the night as opposed to day? Is that absolutely impossible?
I think the residents may not get any sleep if that occurs, but
I don't know. It's just a suggestion. Can you imagine everybody's in bed fast asleep? They could do more journeys than they hoped and get it done quicker. I don't know. Just a thought. That to me would alleviate any problem we would have.
I think in theory that could work, but I'm not sure that would be particularly popular. I'm not sure I would want, living on a quiet lane, to have lorries rumbling by all night. But this is the sort of thing that needs to be explored thoroughly, and I don't. But thank you. So again, thank you, Councillor Odey, Town Clerk. Hopefully you're happy with all the any additional comments to Councillor Odey's prepared statement. Okay, fine. We will send that to West Sussex. Thank you very much, committee. Okay, let's get on to some more normal applications. Right, we have all seen this one before. This is DM21 0069, The Grange, Firs Lane. This is erection of detached 3-bedroom chalet style property on land adjacent to the Grange with new access to Firs Lane. These are amended plans received on the 12th of April, showing revised dimensions, site layout details, indicating position height and proposal to neighbouring properties. Town Clerk, I just did want to say that we commented on the 15th of the 2nd. We've also commented on the 29th, and these look like the same set of plans that we've commented on before. I'm not sure how different they are, but just as the Imberhorn Ward councillor, I have looked through these plans and they look nigh on exactly the same as the ones we looked at our last meeting. So I'm going to propose that we recommend to the clerk that we would support approval in line with our previous comments on this. Can I have a second for that? Councillor Odey, thank you. Any other comments on that at all? No, thank you. Can I have a show of hands then in support, just so we can make that clear for the video? Thank you. Again, we've seen this one, but these are new plans. This is DM21 0411. This is 8 Frith Park. This is proposed detached garage. These are amended plans. I don't know if you remember the plans from before, those that were on the committee. Councillor Favor, you may not have seen them, but this basically the main change is that it now doesn't have the upper floor. Councillor Dooley, would you like to start us on that one?
Yeah, you've kind of summarised it nicely there. That the main difference is there is no second floor. I think recommending approval. I think the previous comments we had were around comments about it not being used as an accommodation. I think they don't need to go into this comment now, because I think it's just going to be used as a garage. So happy to propose or recommend that this is considered as an approval.
Okay, so the wording we're using tonight, committee, we would recommend to the clerk that we will support approval.
That's exactly.
I'm happy to second. I'm happy to second that. Are there any other comments on that at all? And I agree with Councillor Dooley that I think we can remove, not remove, but not add our previous comments. This is no longer, now the second floor gone, and it's no one's going to live in in this, it's a big shed now. So, okay, so we'll go on to DM21 0732. This is 5 the Dell. This is conversion of ground floor single-story integrated garage to a living space, and conversion of lean-to conservatory to a living space. On the 29th of the 3rd, we commented that we would support approval. So I've only got one slide for this one here. This is Ashplat. Councillor Favor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It looks all right for me. It's not intrusive or overbearing, and there's a quite large of space as well in front and at the back. So I would support approval for this. And there are some houses that with similar, development as well before. So I would support this approval.
Thank you. Can I have a second for that, please? Councillor Scott. Any further comments on this at all, committee? Can I have a show of hands to recommend that to the clerk? Thank you. DM21 0742. This is a variation of condition for 2 Crossways Avenue. We have seen this before. This is the description has been amended. This is a variation conditions 2 and 3 of Planning Permission DM20 1735. This is replacing approved plans to allow minor changes to the windows and material. They change the guttering and downpipes from black to white. These are description amended to include proposed solar PV panels to front roof slope, installation of air source heat, ground pump, and Tesla power wall battery. And these are amendments to the plans that you've already seen. I feel that the first ones are very small. The window changes are really minimal, and the guttering change seems to fit in with other houses that are similar. The other 3 things, which are the PV panels, the ground source heat pump, and the battery, are all green agenda items. So therefore, I fully support those being included in the planning application. So I would recommend to the clerk that we support approval on that variation of conditions. Can I have a second for that, please? Councillor Odie. Any other comments on that at all?
No.
In fact, it'd be very nice to see that if we do ever have any more planning buildings in, new builds in the town, that some of those last 3 things were included as standard on those buildings.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so DM21 1333. This is land to the rear of 9 and 10 Packer Close, East Grinstead. This is change of use of plot of land adjoining the northeast boundary of 9 and 10 Packer Close to domestic gardens. So you can see here to the rear. I'll zoom up a little bit for you. To the rear of the boundary here, changing those into their private gardens. This is Ashplat. So again, should we go Town Mayor? Would you like to start us on that one?
Thank you very much, Chairman. I think it's a very welcome use of the available space. If you can see the private garden next door, and this is part of the housing development that's taking place with the housing company. I think it's a very useful piece of garden, and I would, careful of my words, recommend we support approval.
Thank you. Can I have a second to that, please? Councillor Favor. Any further comment at all? Councillor Odie.
Thanks, Chair. Sorry, can you tell me why do they have to put planning permission if it's already their garden?
I don't believe it is currently their garden. I'm not quite sure why, in the technicalities of what this bit of space is, for it to be redesignated. I don't know if you know any more, Town Clerk, on this particular patch of land.
I don't have the detail of this, but this is land to the rear of 9 and 10 Packer Close. So this is the an area that didn't have private gardens in it. So of course they're the new builds, and whatever that land has been used for, it's not been used as a domestic garden, which is why it's come up as a change of use. So what it was, I really don't know.
Yeah.
It said it's
Councillor Before?
they said this is a registered landscape space. This is adjoining the rear of the two properties at the back, and it's really very difficult to access because it's at the back of this new development, and it's really difficult to see this. You know, when I went there yesterday, it's all you know, at the center of the development and the back garden of the two houses at the back. So I think if this will be used for, you know, for garden of the new houses there, it will be okay.
My thought on it is that because if this plot of land was part of the development, that it's probably down as landscaped ground in the original applications, and it just needs redesignating to being private garden to be parcelled off with it, because it wasn't on the original plans as private garden.
So
Councillor Odey?
are they having to buy that land then?
Ownership is not part of planning.
Okay. Yeah. Yes.
Councillor de Bell.
I think my understanding is that this, as Councillor Bavor was saying, if you look, it's right next to a private garden. It's very difficult to get into it. There's not much else you could do with it. I think it's basically an odd piece of land that's owned by the developer, and they've decided to utilise it for garden just because it's useless for anything else. Basically, that's my opinion of it anyway, and that's to kind of answer what Councillor Odey was asking.
Okay, so we've got a recommendation that we will recommend to the clerk to support approval. That seconded. Any other? If there's no other comments, can we just show of hands to support that? Thank you. We'll stick in Ashplatts for DM 21 1335. This is for Court Crescent. This is demolition of existing conservatory with replacement 2-storey rear extension with rear facing Juliet balcony. And there is one neighbour supporting this. And this shows the before and afters from the rear and from the side. So, Councillor Favour.
This development is away from the street scene. There is plenty of space in the garden, and this is not intrusive or overbearing. And neighbors is also no problem with the neighbors. So I would support this for the approval of this planning application. Thank you.
Can I have a second for that, please? Town Mayor. Any other comments on this at all?
No, good.
Now, a show of hands in support then, please, Richard. Thank you. Next one is in Herentide. This is DM 21 1351. This is Hillcroft on Coombe Hill Road. This is overcladding of existing structure with new thermally insulated facade. Reconstruction of bay windows, small extension to kitchen at ground floor, single-storey extension at first floor, replacement of existing flat roofs with new green roof system. The plans don't show a lot of that in huge detail, but here are a couple of the drawings that kind of show some of the changes for you. Councillor Odey, do you like to start on that?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I don't have any objections to this at all. I think what they're doing is great, actually, from a environment perspective. and I would recommend to the clerk that we would support approval.
Thank you. Can I have a second for that? Councillor Peacock, or Deputy Town Mayor, sorry.
Yeah, thanks, Chair.
Any other comments on this at all? There is one neighbour supporting it as well. So again, this comes back to what I commented made earlier. I'm fully in support of any greener agenda. It's brilliant. So, Councillor Peacock, you've raised your hand.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. It's just the point. It's obviously first time I've been to the Town Council Planning Committee for a while, but I have noticed it's actually in line with EG 13, promoting modern technology. So I don't know how many planning applications we've had in the last couple of years, which I think is good, as Councillor Odie said, supporting solar generation, heat pumps, etc. There was one earlier on, but it's good that they're actually taking the initiative now. So that was my only point. EG 13.
No, we fully agree, and in my work on some of the sort of neighbourhood plan development that we're doing with new green agendas, I would like to see, as I said earlier, new build houses built to a good green standard, where it hasn't got to be done retrospectively. This is done from scratch. The new houses aren't built to the lowest price; they're built to the best green ability that we can and most sustainable. So yes, it's good to see this happening in our town retrospectively. Can I see a show of hands, please? Thank you. Good. That's just the other facade, sorry. DM 21 1381 is just for noting.
Noted.
Noted.
DM 21 1383 is 20 Meadowcroft Close, proposed single-storey extension to front elevation, first floor extension to side elevation and garage conversion. So this is typical Imberhorn estate extension, new porch, slightly squaring off. Meadowcroft Close has had lots of extensions, some bigger than this. I've got no problem with this one at all. So I would recommend to the clerk that we would support approval on this. Can I have a second for that, please? Okay. Any other comments at all?
No, totally agree with you, Chair.
Support, please. Okay. DM 21 1389 is for noting.
Noted.
Noted.
Back to Herontai for DM 21 1437. This is 5 Coronation Road. This is rear ground floor extension, first floor front dormer roof extension, and first floor rear extension. The drawings are quite small at the bottom of the screen, so I will bring them up a little bit bigger so you can hope to see them.
Interrupting you, Chairman, I apologise. The drawings may be incorrect because I looked at them. Steve, Councillor Odie probably spotted this as well, and they refer to an address in Haywards Heath. So,
Yes, I do.
You are correct. They do.
yeah. So
I hadn't even zoomed up on that little corner of it. Well done, Councillor Peacock. Councillor Odie, have you seen any other plans connected to this at all? Town Clerk, can we make a note that incorrect plans on the portal then?
I'm just double checking them as I'm on the portal at the same time, Chair, making sure that there's nothing else on there that we should have looked at.
yeah, there wasn't anything earlier
No,
this
I'm
morning.
sure.
so.
I'm sure.
I normally pick up on that. Well done, Deputy Town Mayor. You get a gold star for observation on that one. Well done.
Yeah, so looks like something's gone wrong at their scanning.
If we can
stage,
get
isn't
in
it?
touch,
Yeah.
if we can get in touch with Mid Sussex. Maybe we can try and get those plans updated, and we can make a delegated decision, maybe with the inclusion of the ward members before the closing date.
I suspect they'll need to
application.
re-advertise, Chairman.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. Makes that a little bit quicker, doesn't it? Next one tonight is DM 21-1440. This is for noting.
Noted.
Chairman, can I just double check that if that does come back, that's just to try out whether it needs planning permission or something, and then it will come back as a proper application if it needs one?
Yes.
The LDC.
Yes.
That's exactly what happens. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we don't pass comment on LDCs because it's not at a stage to attract comments.
Right, thank you.
We have a similar one coming up later, which are our P&Os, product notification, which we have in the past made more comments on with P&Os than in the past. But technically, again, it would fall under a similar thing where we may not need to comment on P&Os. But a lot of these will change because under the new planning from the next meeting, which I'll be detailing to you more detail in between now and the next planning meeting, where anything that is on that boundary, quite often a permitted development, are probably going to be ones that we would make no comment on going forward anyway, unless they were something that we really thought was contentious. But then you'll find it probably go to full planning. So DM 21-1442, starring role for Worsted tonight. This is 38 The Glades. This is demolition of Conservatory, construction of single-storey rear extension. Councillor Belzy, do you want to have your moment in the sun?
Thank you, Chairman. Although obviously I care about the whole of East Grinstead, not just Worsted.
Worsted gets so few applications. I want you to feel special.
Thank you. So no objection to this. There's just one comment on the portal from a resident, sort of 38 and 51, sort of nearly back onto each other, and I think the resident of 51 is just concerned that their driveway parking access won't be used for sort of going up the garden path, as it were, to the back of 38. So I'm just sort of highlighting that, and just hopefully in the conditions we just make sure that if we could just make sure that it's down to 38 to sort out their own access and things to be able to manage the extension that they're proposing.
Thank you. DM 21-1452 again is for noting.
Noted.
Noted.
And DM 21-1355 is a P&O for 31A North End Road. This is change of use from shop to one bedroom residential flats. Yes. This is, again, we don't technically normally not have to make comments with these, but I do have some concerns about this particular one. This is a very, very small flat in an already very crowded area. I would like it to be I would very much like to see that minimum living standards are met. I have slight concerns from the plans that they may not be, that they're trying to put a pine into a quart pot there. So I would really want that looked at very carefully, as I'm sure it would be anyway, but just highlight that. And I do think that this is we're coming very close to overdeveloping this site now. So I would recommend to the clerk that we would actually make, because it's a P&O, we're not going to make a recommendation, but I would like to put some comments attached to this application that we are concerned about overdevelopment and we're concerned about minimum living conditions. And if I'm really honest, I think we've said it in the past, we can build we can convert better flats than this for the residents of East Grinstead, this is really not going to be a very nice place to live for somebody moving forward. Are there any, I'm not going to take a vote on this because of it being a P&O, but are there any other comments anyone wants to add on this at all?
Oh, I thought you put it very well, Chair.
Okay, we've got Councillor Bell, Councillor Peacock, Councillor Favor. So Town Mayor, can you come first for me?
Thank you very much indeed, Chairman. I totally agree with you. There are a couple of objections on the portal, and you're absolutely spot on the money, I think, in terms of it being just cramming an extra flat in where it's going to cause problems. And it's a shame that the original shop didn't carry on, because we need shops in East Grinstead. That's my kind of comment. Thank you very much indeed.
Okay, Deputy Town Mayor, please.
The only thing I'd add to that is the fact it doesn't seem compliant with EG5 housing. The proposed development contributes to sustainable development. Well, I think from what you've said, it very clearly or potentially demonstrably is not. And then there's obviously there'll be other policies in the district plan. So whether you want to see any benefit of including that as well.
Chairman, if I may, you have to remember this is a P&O, which effectively
I know, I'm
LDC, and whereas
very mindful of it being.
Absolutely, we can make comments about the size of the rooms and therefore ensuring that minimum standards are met, and we can make comments that it's with regret that we see that another an application for yet another flat going into this development. There's no planning policies that are going to apply if it is a P&O.
I completely agree. That's why I didn't include any. But Councillor Favor, please.
Mr. Chairman, I'm just concerned about the privacy of the neighbor, because windows are directly looking directly to the neighbors, directly on the neighbor side. So I think it's the privacy of them that is also another problem.
Yeah, I agree. So if we can put those comments in.
So you'd like me to say this is wholly unsuitable, basically?
Yeah, we really don't want you to do this.
Yeah, okay.
I think the best option would be that at the moment with this, that they declare it's not a P&O and it has to come back to a full application, and then we can really lay the policies into it then.
Yeah, agreed.
Thank you, committee, for indulging that one. It's a nice, interesting one. DM21 1391. This is the atrium on King Street. This is change of use from a gym to an indoor golf facility with bar and lounge. This is Town Ward. So, yeah. Councillor Scott, please.
Well, I've looked at this. What is an indoor golf facility? How do you play it? Who knows? At least it's something the town's never ever had before. That is the hub of our town for entertainment. If they want to change it from a gym, and we have a lot of gyms, so if they want to move it away from a gym to something totally different that the town hasn't got, who am I to say it's not a good thing? So I would certainly support this. I don't know what it is. I haven't got a clue what it is.
I think that might be explained to you in a minute. Can I have a second for that before we make comment on it? Councillor Odie. Councillor Belzy, who is a very good golfer, you can make comment on this, I'm sure.
I haven't been called that before, Chairman, so thank you very much. So I don't think I have an interest to declare because I don't know the owner, but they did get in touch with me just because they didn't know what the situation was regarding parking at Mid Sussex District car parks, etc., and whether there were things they can do to get permits and things. And as a result of that, they invited me to see the facility, and I have to say it's a thoroughly. I think it's a facility to be welcomed. If that helps, Councillor Scott. They're putting in a huge amount of really high-tech equipment. They say it will be the highest spec indoor golf facility in Europe in terms of being able to pinpoint. So sorry, the aim is I think going to be hugely technological golf, so you can study and analyze your swing, and they're hoping to have sort of, you know, national or people who we will have heard of, who are famous golfers, coming in and honing their swing, because obviously it's not too far from Gatwick. It's got a lot of there's a lot of PGA professionals, etc. around. But obviously that might not keep it. That will be sort of during the daytime, and then the evening, I think they plan, will it be open to the public, and they're going to you'll be able to play courses like Augusta or Wentworth or St George's and things, just from the comfort of the booths, and they will be putting in a bar and a restaurant to be able to make it a sort of more of an entertainment space. So I think it's hopefully combining the best of both worlds. As Councillor Scott says, it's certainly a facility that we don't have already, and I think they are few and far between. They put a lot of money into making this investment, and very supportive of what they've done, and I wish them every success in their venture. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Yeah, I spoke to a local golf pro who I know that each one of the booths is having equipment to the value of at least £20,000 going into each of those booths, and there are several booths, so I know it's a large investment. Councillor de Bell, Town Mayor, please.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I just totally agree with what Councillor Belsey said, and I think what we're sort of implying and what we're saying here is that it will be a welcome change, something new for the town. And I think that it will be very, very welcome for a number of people and for a broad church across the town who want to use it. So far better than the constant run of things that seems to move towards just purely converting everything to housing, etc. So I personally think it's going to be great for the town. Thank you.
Yep.
Councillor Scott, did you want to?
Well, I just said that now that I've been informed as to exactly what it is, I did support it. Now I double support it. It sounds brilliant.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, can I have a show of hands to support recommending this to the clerk for approval, please? Thank you. I think it'll take a lot more than very flash tech teaching to make my golf any better. Don't you smirk, Councillor Odie. We know that you're the best here, so that's.
It'd be good for my knee, though, Chair. I've got to do so much walking.
I like to explore the whole course when I play. Every bit, the sides, the ditches, you know, behind every tree, all of it. Right.
Is it 10-mile walk? Is it?
Yes, it's part of my step count. So we're going to go to DM21. 1592. This is 38 Shelley Road. Proposed construction of a single-storey rear extension. This is obviously, as I said, on Shelley Road. I think these nice little 3D plans show where there was and wasn't an extension. I do like a 3D plan, I must say. It does really show what they're trying to do very easily. Again, last to Imberhorn, I recommend that to the clerk that we support approval on this. I don't see any great problem with it personally. It's single story rear extension for a kitchen. Yeah, nice. Can I have a second for that, please? Councillor Odie, thank you. Any comments on that at all?
No, perfect.
Okay. DM21 1609. This is 52 Gardenwood Road. This is proposed 2-storey side extension with single-storey rear extension and loft conversion. This again is a very common extension for the area. It is quite a large extension, but I'm looking at it. It's on the corner there. It is large. It is a large volume, and I can see Councillor Odie's probably thoughts on this, but I do think there are others bigger. I think it's quite symmetrical. I like the back. I would recommend to the clerk that we support approval on this. Can I have a second for that, please? Thank you, Councillor Favor. Any other comments on that at all?
Chairman, before you move on from this one, there
Yes.
are 2 objections on the portal.
Yes, I'm aware.
You've seen them. That's fine.
That's why I hesitated slightly at the start of it, and why it took a bit more thought than possibly some of the other extensions in this ward on these roads, but everything being balanced with the surrounding area, with the surrounding properties, with previous applications, I think on balance it's fine. Deputy Town Mayor and then Councillor Dooley.
I think on balance, forgiving the size, I think actually the proposed layout is a better design actually. So setting aside size, and if it's in keeping with the surroundings, I think the new design, the proposed design is an improvement personally.
Thank you. Councillor Dooley.
So just had questions about what the kind of objections were a little bit, because I must admit I haven't looked in detail on this one. I tend to sort of look more on my ward, but I mean, are they around anything to do with privacy? Because I noticed they've gone into the 3rd floor as well, which kind of is probably, I don't have a problem with it at all, but I think that maybe is the excessive bit. They've gone even higher, and I know they're Velux, but it just seems a lot, isn't it? It's quite a big development.
I actually, right now, I read the comments last week when I did it, and I haven't got them right in front of me now, but I remember my notes.
I do. I've got them both in front of me.
Thank you. I thought you would. Thank you.
One of them's come from Mr. Bateman, who lives in Bahorn Park Cottage, and he says he objects as the building has been taken out to the boundary line, meaning that when walking down Chapman's Lane, rather than looking at the hedge, you'll be looking at an overbearing brick wall. I think they should be notified for their comments and concerns. So as the neighbours, I have a right of way to my house only. Dog wall. Anyway, nothing much there. Just the overbearing site when you walk down it is his main concern. The other one is from the direct neighbour at Chapman's house, and a gentleman initially makes some comments about the application form hasn't been filled out correctly. That's a matter for Mid Sussex to look at. He then goes on to say that the application shows the boundary with my property and shows the side of the building as part of the boundary. This is currently the garage with a flat roof and is part of a 2-storey extension with a sloped roof which protrudes at least 0.5 metres onto my property and will therefore have an overbearing impact on my land. The project has already had an effect on the lane, which was complete hedging and trees, as 35 metres of that hedging has been cut down and replaced with a fence, again causing intrusion into the countryside and a marked effect on the lane. The 2-storey extension, because of its closeness to the lane, will block the light into the lane and the effective growth of any new plantation there, which will need to be completed to replace the hedge already lost. I do have documentation and photographs to show the significant impact this has already had on the lane, and although I appreciate this cannot be considered in opposition, we're in dispute with the Gardenwood Road as to what has already happened here. And so that's from gentleman at Chapman's house.
Yes, thank you. I do remember both of those. I did. The only one that raised a concern was the boundary and the overhanging bit, and I couldn't quite see that so clearly from the plans. If I'm really honest, there weren't those details, weren't as detailed to show that. In regards to the lane, yeah, it's a shame, but it's.
I think, to be very fair, that the gentleman at Chapman House, who's perfectly entitled to object and make his views known, he's particularly unhappy because he believes that part of the hedge which has already been removed was actually his hedge and has been replaced by a fence, which obviously he doesn't like and doesn't like the aesthetic. Fully understand.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's not actually part of this application, unfortunately, though. Really, it's not the hedge removal, so that is a separate issue. Separate neighbourly issue, and if you want to get in touch with me about that, we can discuss that, but it is separate to this. So that's why I remember completely now why I weighted it the way I did. And yes, Councillor Scott.
One thing I was just going to say was, yes, it is a big extension. Well, it is a big element of work, should I say, but looking at the existing, they seem to have remained within the footprint of the actual framework of the building. They've come out to the garage, gone up and come across. And so I don't think they've really altered the shape of their property too much, just increased it.
Yeah.
And I would also support that as well.
Okay. Councillor Dooley then? And then
I think we would struggle to have a planning a case against it if you're going by pure planning legislation. I think we wouldn't have a case against it. So I think I would probably support you on your sort of like recommendation on this one, Chair.
Town Mayor.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I think that this and indeed the last planning application, this is 52 and 29 Garden Road, is just an indication of people trying to make the best of what they have, and it's creating a lovely aspirational home for our town. And I would fully support what you've said, in that we need people to take an interest in where they live and to do just such alterations. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, go to a show of hands to recommend to the clerk to support approval for this one then. Thank you. So last one of the night now is DM 21 1633, and as the town mayor alluded, this is 29 Gardenwood Road. This is demolition of garden room and detached garage replaced with single story side and rear extension. Quite small plans down the bottom. These are the correct plans, though, even on the small plans. So this is the existing at the garage. This shows the new over here. Again, very similar to before. I think it's making better use of the layout, updating it, slightly modernising it. I have no problem with it. You can see the sort of collection of little outbuildings and garage there. It's just bringing that into more living space. You know, we're all aware house prices are expensive, and it is often cheaper to stay put and extend if you've got the space to do it. So I think this is a good example of that. So I would recommend to the clerk that we support approval. Can I have a second for that, please? Councillor Scott, any other comments at all? No. Can I show of hands and support them, please? Thank you. So that is the last.
Chair, before you close.
Yes.
I'm just conscious that, and I don't know because we're advisory whether it has any legal bearing or anything like that, but I'm just conscious that there were the application that I represented in Baldwin's, and there was one other that we didn't actually take a vote on. You just moved on from the second.
Did I not take a vote?
No. So I'm not sure from
we don't technically need to, but no. If people would like to take new votes on those, we can, because we're not actually taking a legal vote. That was just for clarification.
That's fine. I just wanted to make you aware that it was something we had missed. Just if there was a
my fault. Sorry.
No, that's fine. It's easy because I know that it's a bit of an extraordinary meeting, isn't it, at the moment?
Slightly strange format. Town Clerk, did you have any queries on any of those about any?
No, I'm perfectly happy with the comments that are made by the committee in order to assist with the delegated process. Under no circumstances have you made any decisions tonight whatsoever. You don't need to take votes. They're just indicative with help, but your comments have been quite clear anyway. So I will be drawing up a list of delegated decisions which I will have approved by the chairman and vice chairman in accordance with the delegation, and then they'll be circulated around the committee so that you can see them and posted on the website.
Perfect, thank you. And we don't need to, apparently according to this, we don't need to actually have a closing time of the meeting, but I want to. It's 8:15, so we'll close the meeting there.
There's no minutes, Chair.
I know, but it just feels like it's nice for the video record that we know that when we close the meeting for posterity.
It will just kill your OCD, won't it, Councillor?
It will. It really will. I've been doing this a long time now.
I'm fully with you on that.
Can you just clarify the minutes position? Sorry, there are no minutes. We're not doing minutes.
It's not a meeting, so I can't do minutes.
So does that mean, so if members of the public are interested, there's nothing for them to know what was a.
Well, we've recorded the meeting, so we're going to post the meeting on YouTube, so it can be watched back, and people can see the fact that you had a conversation, you talked about it, and then obviously
and our list of delegated decisions.
Yeah, the comments that then go in, they'll be able to see, yes, that was what you talked about, and therefore that those were the items that were referred to. And there will be a list of delegated decisions which will be posted on the website, which will be approved by this committee once it can meet again, which hopefully won't be too long.
Can I just ask, are those delegated decisions just the decisions itself, or will there be comments with the decisions?
The decisions will have the comments with them that we submit to the district. So
It'll be exactly.
there won't
It'll be exactly the same.
Yeah, there'll be very few would support approvals. There's likely to be a little bit more information behind them, depending on what you talked about here today, because it's about explaining the decision that I've made, rather that it can be taken back to and shown to have come from this information. It's a delegated decision. I don't have to do that, but I just think it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, no, it's just helpful from a transparency perspective.
We want to